As you all know, I'm in the Lemoyne program. It's a pre-college program. It's taught me a lot. Number one, it taught me that no matter what, people are always going to question the legitimacy of your mental illness, and that's a painful reality. I'm blind and I have a mental illness, and I've seen a lot of differences in the way that people respond to those disabilities. Nobody would tell me that I'm not a real blind person because they can see it outwardly and there's proof. There's this old saying called seeing is believing, and I think that that's true, and people hold on to that. If I tell someone I have PTSD and try to explain my triggers, I have to make it make sense to them. But sometimes that means they don't take my explanations as seriously because it doesn't make sense in their world. And the thing about PTSD triggers is that they're very specific. They really wouldn't make full sense unless you experienced them, and that's why they're individual for every single person. A trigger of mine is being called a liar, but you wouldn't know if you weren't there. You wouldn't know exactly how it feels. You wouldn't be able to understand why it's such a big deal. A trigger brings you back to a time where you were traumatized. It's a very physical, emotional reaction. I think I have emotional triggers and physical triggers. I have triggers that physically make me feel like I'm a small child, but I also have triggers that make me emotionally feel stuck in a place where I could not fight back, where I was powerless and helpless, and where I couldn't really control what happened to me. I witnessed something, and it was very telling. Everyone here is blind or visually impaired, and you can see that outwardly. You can tell that when we're walking, the way we do certain things, you can just tell that there's something there with the sight. There's another girl in my program who has an invisible disability, and I call it invisible because if you looked, you wouldn't see it, because you're not looking for it. But she asked someone to respect a trigger of hers, to turn off the music in the car, because the music coming through car speakers really freaked her out, as she had been in an accident involving a car. And the staff member at the wheel took it very personally and said that he felt targeted because she was asking him to turn off the music. And then he proceeded to question her and joke, what if I sing? What if I do this? What if I do that? It took a lot of courage for her to even say that that was a trigger in the first place. As the last time that we were in the car, she had waited until the last minute and started to have a very emotional, physical, immediate reaction. This time she had the space to think and say, okay, I have to tell this person that it triggers me, because once I'm in that state of reaction, it's hard to pull myself out. She knew that for herself, and she did that. And the person behind the wheel did not respond really well. She had tried to explain it to him numerous times, and he just thought that she was making it up to spite him. If you broke your leg, nobody would treat you that way. Saying, I can't do this, I broke my leg. They wouldn't be like, I feel like you only say that you have a broken leg when you're with me. Why don't you try walking? I promise it won't work. What do you mean? No walking? You can't do this? What are you talking about? We give people with mental illnesses a lot of hard times because we can't see what's happening. People say it's all in your head, and that's true, but it's also offensive. It's true because it's in our heads. It's called a mental illness. It's got to do with your brain, stuff like that. But it's hurtful and dismissive because it's saying that because it's all in your head, it doesn't exist. It's not real. I can't see it. Shut up and sit down. Blindness is also all in your head and your eyes. But because it has a physical outward manifestation, nobody tells you, we don't think that's really a problem. When you have a headache, nobody says, that's just in your head. You're just imagining that you have a headache. You're just imagining that you broke your leg. You're just imagining that you broke your arm. You're just imagining that you, stabbed yourself with a piece of glass. We treat everyone's physical injuries as something that need to be taken seriously, and we do what we can to treat them and make them comfortable. So how come when someone says I'm going to have a panic attack or this is a PTSD trigger, we give them a hard time, like they love making up stuff and they love being triggered? First of all, triggered is not a bad word. It's a very useful term, and I don't like what it's become to mean in 2019. People use it now to say that they're offended. Triggered does not mean offended. A trigger is something very real, and it's way beyond being offended. It's being transported back in time. It's risking being or experiencing a flashback. So when we throw around words like trigger, that takes away from the meaning. For when you really need to use it to tell someone that you could be re-traumatized, that's what a trigger is. You are re-traumatizing someone. When you are put into a triggering situation, your brain flashes back to the immediate moment or one moment where you felt that same feeling. When I'm called a liar, I'm taken back to very painful, emotional times in my life where I've made myself vulnerable and someone has said, "We don't believe you." And the emotional pain is magnified because I'm reacting to what's happening in the present, and I'm also reacting to what happened in the past. The point of this was just to say, a mental illness is not any less serious just because you cannot see it. If someone says that they're not feeling well mentally, or they think that they're going to feel off, or that they need to sit down, or they can't do an activity because they're anxious, or, it'll trigger them, I don't think it's respectful to start questioning them about that. I think that if you're going to work with people in general, especially teenagers in this day and age, you can't have such a closed mind. You also need to learn when to be serious, and you can't take triggers personally, because they literally have nothing to do with you or the present situation. The music doesn't affect her because it's music in the car. It affects her because of what it reminds her of. A trigger is always about what it reminds you of. The memory is always of the past. Nobody has triggers that send them into the future. It's always something tied to the past that traumatized you in the first place. It's like if you were in a school shooting, you might hear a firework go off. You're not afraid of the firework, but you're afraid of the sound, which might sound like a gunshot to you and might bring to mind when you were in a school shooting. I'm using school shootings because it was the first example that came to my mind. Loud noises, unexpected things, just like how anxiety can be triggered, or stress can be triggered by certain things. PTSD can be triggered. A depressive episode, a PTSD thing, a non-epileptic seizure, and even though to some people they don't seem very real, and it seems like you should just be able to grin and bear it, tell yourself you're not in that traumatic situation anymore, it's not that easy. Our brain is so beautiful and wonderful, but it also has some downsides. When you're having a trigger, it's a flight, fright, fleet, freeze. It's not able to separate past from present. It just knows that it's under fire, and it needs to figure out a way to fix it. Anyone who has the courage to tell someone, "I have a mental illness and this is how you can accommodate me," that's a huge thing. You risk being laughed at and being told that you're not being truthful. And I'm proud of the girl who was able to put herself out there and say, "Please stop doing this thing." And I'm very disappointed in the staff who did not respond the right way, because all he did was add stress to her already stressful situation, and he made her feel ashamed of something that she should not have felt ashamed for. You can't control triggers. You can manage them once you learn what they are, and that's what she was doing. Some people might say, "Oh, well, you're trying to change the world to fit you." It's not about that. But just like you wouldn't make somebody with a broken leg walk, you shouldn't make somebody with a specific trigger suffer through it because your pride is wounded. I just want to let you know, if any of you have friends with a mental illness, don't belittle it just because it doesn't affect you in the same way. Two people with anxiety can experience it very differently. We have to be very careful with the way we react to people telling us that they hurt our feelings or such and such. We think that we're entitled to say and do whatever we want, and we never want to face the consequences until it's too late. So don't let it get to the point where it's too late. If your friend is nervous or anxious or says, "You really hurt me," just take that at face value. How can I help you better next time? How can I be a better friend to you? Don't take it personally. It's not an insult to your character. We're telling you because we trust you to fix it and make it better for us. That's all I wanted to say. Have a good night, everybody. And don't forget that advocacy is good. And if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody will. So even if a lot of people call you a fake, you keep asking for what you need. Because just because nobody else can see it, it doesn't mean that your mental health issues are not real. Amen.